This is Rounding Third, Boston Podcast. Harrison Smith and Nick Arno are breaking down every pitch, every game, and every series. Live every week. This is your home for all things Red Sox. Let's talk.
Welcome back into Rounding Third, Boston. Alex Bregman to the Sox, episode 3. Here we go. I'm Nick, and we got Harrison. How are we doing tonight, Harrison?
Awesome, bud. How we doing?
Doing pretty good now that we know that Alex Bregman is officially at spring training. You know, we've seen him on camera taking ground balls and answering questions to the press already. So Alex Bregman is officially a Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, and he made it Instagram official the day before that, which was really nice of him. I gotta say, I found myself watching as many of the clips today from spring training as I could because I'm sitting here with 8 inches of fresh snow and high winds and really wishing I was enjoying some of that Florida weather.
Yeah, well, all right, we'll get into it. But first, make sure you follow and like us on Facebook. You can follow on Instagram, Rumble, TikTok. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast. If you think of a social media platform, we're on it.
Yeah, and even better if you share it with somebody you know.
Absolutely. Our affiliate programs, Dick's Sporting Goods, MLB Shop, and Lids. You can find these links on our social media pages. You click on them. You can do your shopping for these 3 companies right through that link. We get a nice little kickback with no additional cost to you. We just get a nice percentage for providing the link. So please support us in that way if you can.
You know, you're going to be shopping anyways. Just do it through us.
Absolutely. And also, our Rounding Third merch is here. We are going to be adding some Rounding Third Boston stuff to this as well as we get going. But these are some of the products that we have to offer so far. So please, you can also find this on our social media links. You can find this at Rounding Third Baseball on Etsy or a link provided on our social media.
Yeah. Thanks to those of you who have placed orders too. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Let's get right into it. Alex Bregman signs with the Sox. 3 years, $120 million with opt-outs after year 1 and year 2. What was your initial reaction when I called you 10:30 at night being like, yo, what just happened?
My initial reaction was, oh my God, what's wrong? Why isn't Nick calling me at 10:30? And then once I heard what you had to say, honestly, I was stunned. Not stunned that he was coming to Boston necessarily. Like I'd said a few weeks ago, I still felt like Boston was the best fit for him and that he was probably the best fit for the Red Sox if they wanted to sign somebody else. But more so the deal. I don't view Alex Bregman as a $40 million a year guy. I think we said his market value was somewhere in the high 20s, maybe 30, which sounds like where all the other offers were. But his bat was built for Fenway Park. And I think Boston fans are going to love watching this guy hit at Fenway because he is going to absolutely pepper the monster with balls. Just like he used the Crawford boxes in Houston. He is going to be living in left field and taking full advantage of what the monster has to offer.
Yeah, and his numbers at Fenway are pretty ridiculous. Like, yeah, it's a small sample size compared to what a full season might look like. But when he comes to Fenway Park, he tears it up. But
yeah, trash cans or not, the guy hits at Fenway. Yeah, always.
Absolutely. So potentially we'll start at second base unless another move gets done here in spring training. Do you think this is the best place to put Bregman, or is it because there's no other place really to put Devers?
Is it the best place to put Bregman? No. I mean, he's proven that he's a top tier third baseman, you know, one of probably the best handful of third basemen in baseball. So I think third base is ideally where you want to put him. You got Devers there. And I think the fact that Alex Bregman came up as a shortstop, played shortstop before he moved over to third because of Carlos Correa, has middle infield experience. It feels like the transition to second will be easier than it would be to try to move a guy like a Devers or, you know, move somebody like that around. So I think that it's not ideal, but he's athletic enough. He has experience there that the transition probably isn't too bad. And I don't think he's the kind of guy that's going to hurt you defensively at second base. Given what you've had in the past, I think he will be a, you know, average or better than average second baseman, even brand new.
Well, I mean, he's a Gold Glover, and I don't care if you're a Gold Glover in the outfield, infield, wherever. Like, you're athletic enough to win a Gold Glove. You're probably athletic enough to play another position, especially in the infield. Like,
Yeah.
yes, the angles are a little bit different. I did it in college. I played third, second, and first like my entire career. Like, if you do it enough, it's fine. He's a professional. He's gonna pick it up. He's gonna be fine.
Yeah. And it when you flip the field like that, it just takes some getting used to. Similar to you, I played third and first, and I played both corners. And it's just a little bit of adjustment. The ball moves a little bit differently. The assignment's a little bit different. And I think for Bregman, having experience there, the transition is easier because he knows that going in, he probably has some of the footwork down, or he can at least refer to what he used to do. Because that's the hardest part with second base, is that you're oftentimes working kind of away from the ball, or away from where you want to go. On a play at second, on a double play, you're coming across the bag, not towards first base. You spend a lot of your time as a second baseman working away from where you want to go. And that's the biggest adjustment to that. But he certainly has the arm strength. He certainly has the athleticism. He probably knows most of the footwork. I think he'll be a very good second baseman.
Yeah. And who knows what happens as the season goes on? Because as we were talking about before we came on, Devers' shoulder is starting to aggravate him again already. Still, I mean, since 2021 playoffs, he's had this kind of nagging shoulder issue. So who knows what happens there? But this gives you positional flexibility in that manner too. You have young kids that we're going to talk about in a couple minutes here that are coming up and can fill a spot at second base if Bregman does have to slide back over to third. So he does give you some flexibility. If you start him at second and you need him at third base to even give Rafi a day off, it's a nice thing to have in your back pocket to just be like, hey, Bregman, you're sliding over to third today. I'm sure we'll see him in both spots. He's not cemented at second base.
No, I think second base is a likely landing spot. But again, like you mentioned with Devers' shoulder, Devers is not really even throwing right now. He's taking ground balls. He's really not throwing. He still has discomfort. They're trying to avoid surgery. They're trying to find other ways to work it out. But his swing has been fine. He doesn't feel it when he swings. He feels it when he throws. So given that, that's a pretty good indication that he should probably be DHing. Which means now Bregman goes to third. The problem you have is now what do you do with Yoshida? Because you can't put Yoshida. We learned you can't really put Yoshida in the outfield. I mean, you can put him in left. You don't get exposed that bad at Fenway, and put Rafaela at second and get everybody in kind of the road in the lineup. But that's a 5-year, $90 million deal that you don't want to just have to eat. So I think you're going to have to explore moving Yoshida out to put Bregman back where you want him, and getting Devers the DH spot to give that shoulder a break, because you cannot have Devers do what he did last year and disappear for the second half of the year because he's hurt.
No, but I think these young kids see an opportunity here, because the Red Sox are at the point where they're like, you know what? If we can't move Yoshida, we might end up just sitting him. Like, I mean, I know that's a lot of money sitting on the bench, but you got to do what you got to do. If he's not helping you win ball games, you got to sit him. And if Anthony has a good spring, if, any one of those young kids, Grissom, Mayer, Campbell, have any of a good spring, they could be seeing themselves at second base. And we could see Devers in that DH spot. So who knows? I mean, there's still a lot of things that could happen in the next month before opening day. But
we're still a long way from opening day. That's lots of things can happen.
Yeah. So right now, this is the potential lineup. How do you feel about it?
I mean, the lineup you had last year, you didn't have Casas for a big chunk of the year. You didn't have Story for most of the year. And you were still a top 7 or 8 offense in baseball. You're now going to have, I hope, Story for a whole year, Casas for a whole year. Hopefully you get a healthy Devers. You've added Bregman, who replaces Hamilton and the other cast of characters that rolled through second base. I mean, that lineup is better than last year, and last year's team was a top 7 offense. So this is a team that's going to score runs. They've got speed at the top and the bottom, and a little bit throughout. You've got guys hit for average, guys hit for power, guys that drive runs in. It's going to be an interesting team to watch because they can absolutely hit.
Yeah. Is Garcia Parra still healthy? I mean, you're definitely asking the right guy here on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to call Mia Hamm to see how he's really doing, to see if he can come out to play. But I don't think he's quite in game shape.
No. Jim Rice at DH.
That wouldn't be bad. I'd take him over Yoshida.
I was just gonna say right now, I would definitely take him over Yoshida for sure. But see, this was our kind of worry last year.
Yeah.
Was the Red Sox just gave up a boatload of runs? It was what 700 north of 750.
Yeah, they
Something
scored
like that.
751 and gave up 747. They were a +4. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a lot of runs.
brutal. I don't know.
You were a top 7 offense and like a bottom 7 pitching staff.
Yeah. So I think their rotation gives up less runs, but I'm kind of with him. I'm the bullpen is so shaky that I'm not sure if they're gonna be any lower than they were last year. Like I am petrified of our bullpen.
No,
not gonna lie.
After the 7th inning, early after the 6th inning, it's a crapshoot. The Red Sox blew 33 saves last year. That's a lot. I mean, you're going to blow some, but 33 is obscene. You blew almost half your save opportunities. If you do that again, you're going to be an 84 win team. You can't do that. If you want to, this lineup is now built for the playoffs. That rotation is built for the playoffs. That bullpen is built for AAA, and they've got to find a way to bridge that gap. Or maybe there's guys in the bullpen that have greater upside than we've seen so far, but that bullpen is clearly the weak spot of this team.
1,000% agree. I don't know what they do there. I think Breslow is going to wheel and deal to get some arms in there because he's going to see us kind of mid-July, probably not top of the AL East, but I mean competing.
Yep.
Which we kind of were the last couple of years. Like we were there, and we're like, how come they're not making moves at the deadline? And Cora was vocal about it. We talked about that last week. About like, why aren't we trying to make moves at the trade deadline to get us to the playoffs? So it's just, I hope that Breslow makes moves to get the bullpen help we need for sure.
Yeah, that is clearly the one area that needs the most attention. And spring training is a great chance to see who do you have, what have they got, what's the right sequence of pitchers, what holes do you have? Guys are going to get traded, they're going to get cut, they're going to get sent through waivers. The spring training is a good opportunity to try to go grab some pieces and try to fill out the bullpen. However, you got a lot of holes there. It's not like you're looking for a guy. You're looking for probably 2 or 3, and that may not be easy to find. Again, maybe there's some upside in that bullpen we've not seen yet or we're not aware of, but it's not looking great.
I mean, Hendricks coming back is a big plus if he's if he's the same guy he was before, everything that's happened to that poor guy. Comes back from cancer and then blows out his arm and goes on the shelf with Tommy John. Like he just had a tough go of it. So are we gonna get the same all-star Liam Hendricks? I don't know. And then we have a 38-year-old Aroldis Chapman at the back end of that bullpen. And if we're banking on Aroldis Chapman, we're in trouble. Yeah.
So here you are relying upon a 37-year-old Aroldis Chapman who's been wildly inconsistent the last several years and is a wild card just himself in the clubhouse. And you've got Liam Hendricks, who really has pitched a few times. He pitched a few times in September before they shut him down last year. In the last year and a half. Those are your stoppers in the bullpen. That is the back end of your bullpen is a 37-year-old inconsistent flamethrower and a guy who basically hasn't pitched in a year and a half.
Yeah.
Like these are these are the Boston Red Sox. You don't normally have to go to those extremes to fill roster spots, but this is where we're at.
Yeah. And there were definitely bullpen arms to be had out there. And I'm sure there's still got to be some out there too that could help this team, but we'll see what happens.
Estevez, Scott, Yates, like none of those guys. We thought for sure the Red Sox would target one of those guys. None of them.
Well, Dodgers got 2 out of the 3, so that's fine.
Yeah, but I mean, they picked up both of them in the last 30 days. Like those guys were out there for a long time. I mean, I'm assuming you called on them, but maybe you didn't. Like, I don't know. This has been a weird offseason. The Red Sox have been, very hot for a little while and making moves and very quiet. And then they pop up and they do something. And, but yeah, I think that bullpen's going to be an area of concern all the way through. And it's going to be something that Breslow's going to have to tinker with.
Agree. All right. So with the signing of Alex Bregman, has the timetable changed with these young guys? with Roman Anthony, Marcelo Mayer, Christian Campbell, or are we still seeing how spring training plays out?
I think it's still open for them. I think Rafi Devers' shoulder is clearly a factor in all this. I think that Bregman's transition's a factor in all this. Health is also a factor in this. Somebody may go down. Like, it doesn't take a lot to lose somebody right now. So injuries, really bad spring, guys that are behind schedule. I would say the young kids still have roughly the same opportunity they had before because it's still so unclear. But I think what signing Bregman does is it doesn't put pressure on the Red Sox to feel like they have to bring one of these guys up if they really don't have a good spot for them.
Yeah.
So you can send them all back to AAA to start the year. They can all go rake and get more at bats, and then come up later in the year when you need them, or when somebody gets hurt, or whatever the reason may be. But now the pressure to feel like you have to bring one of them up is off because Bregman is your bridge.
Yeah, I think the odd man out here is Roman Anthony, though, unfortunately, because there's just not a spot for him at this point. Because if you move Rafi to that DH spot and move Bregman to third, like, you don't really have a place. You're not going to bring Rafaela into second, are you? I mean, maybe you will, but I feel like you would rather plug that with just Campbell and leave Rafaela in the outfield.
Well, and I think the Red Sox are in a spot where if Roman Anthony comes into spring training and blows your socks off, you'll find a spot for him. Like, you can move Rafael to second. You can put him in left, or, because he's played everywhere. The one interesting part of this too is that Christian Campbell has played both the outfield and second base. So if you're looking for a guy who's more of a utility type player, you may lean to taking Campbell. He could be a guy like Rafael who can go back and forth. Now, do you want him to go back and forth? Probably not. He's a better infielder, but he could. So it'd give you a second guy like Rafael with position flexibility. But I think if any of these guys come into spring training and just absolutely rake and show they're ready, the Red Sox have the ability to plug them in. Like, they've got flexibility, and it may force their hand to move Yoshida. They may decide to look, he is the block and he's got to go.
Which I 1,000% agree with. He is the block. Like that, yeah. The contract's not good. His performance is not good. It's not steady. It's not consistent. It's every cliche in the book. It's not there. It's time to move on from Yoshida. I said it last week or the week before. I can't remember. I was excited, like, watching him in the WBC, and then he signs with the Sox. I'm like, all right, like, here we go. Like, we're going to have a nice contact hitter. No. And I mean, he's shown flashes, but I want somebody who's consistent. That's going to be there every day.
Yeah. And it's hard because he only played 108 games last year. Like, he also missed time. But 108 games, hit 280, 10 home runs, 56 RBIs. Like, I hate to say it, he's a JD Drew type player. Like, that's who he is. He's going to hit for a decent average. He's going to bring some pop. He's going to drive in a few runs. But the difference is JD Drew is an exceptional outfielder, and drew a lot of walks, which Yoshida doesn't do. And Yoshida does nothing else but hit. Yeah. And when they signed him, the general consensus was they paid too much for him. I felt the same way. I thought he was going to come over and you see the numbers go down. They have. I've never loved the signing of Yoshida, but I like the fact they did something and they brought on the bat. But he's now, because he really can't play the field, he's now really limiting you. And as much as it looks like Bregman is the block to these guys coming up, it really isn't. I think it's Yoshida.
Yeah.
You've lost your flexibility to move people around.
Yep, 1,000%.
Because you can't move them anywhere else. That's the sad part.
Right. He's got to be your DH, and that's it. Like, he hurts you too much in the field.
I mean, best case, you can put him in left field, but he's not good in the outfield.
Which is ridiculous because there's 5 square feet to cover in left field at Fenway Park, and he still can't do it.
Yeah, and what surprised me the most is that he just seems like such an unathletic guy for somebody who has such good, like, batting talent. But he can't track balls. He doesn't really have much of an arm. I'm not sure where he played in Japan, because they must have just, like, hidden him in the outfield somewhere, because there's no way.
No.
He was any sort of defensive help there or here.
Yeah, I agree. So if you have to make a decision, I mean, I know it's way too early. We haven't even seen these kids on the field. What do you think happens? If you could look into your crystal ball, what happens right now? Who makes the team? Who sits?
So
Or who goes down?
is this what I think will happen, or what I want to have happen?
Do both, I guess.
All right. What I want to have happen is I want the Red Sox to move Yoshida. I want to put Bregman at third. I want to put Devers at DH. I want to see Rafaela at second, and I want to see Roman Anthony in left. I think he's the most ready of the bunch. That gives you Marcelo Mayer and Christian Campbell working together in AAA as a double play pair, so that when the time is right, they come up together. And then you have a changing of the guard in the middle. Rafaela goes back to left field. At that point, you could bring in Anthony, Duran, and Abreu. One of them can DH, the other guys can hit. Like you can reshuffle the lineup in a year or two. But that's what I want to have happen. What I think is going to happen is they're going to be stuck with Yoshida. And if anything, you're going to get a guy like Vaughn Grissom to make the team because he's not going to play. I do not believe there's a scenario where the Red Sox are going to bring any of these three guys up, Mayer, Campbell, or Anthony, without a starting job. And if you have to go Devers, Story, Bregman, and Casas in the infield, you don't have a spot for these guys. So you're going to send them all down, let them get ABs, and then bring them up as injuries happen.
Yeah. I mean, spring training, we did see Jackie Bradley Jr., not so long ago, hit his way onto the team. He had a ridiculous spring. He hit like 480 or something like that. And the Red Sox were like, all right, and he came up and started in center field. So there is a scenario where one of these kids comes up in spring training, hits 500, and they're like, all right, well, we can't send this kid back to AAA.
Yeah. And I think if that happens, the Red Sox, like I said before, I think the Red Sox have the flexibility to find a way to put them in.
Yeah.
But barring some insane spring, I think the likelihood is all three of them are back at AAA, and they're just waiting for the opportunity to bring them up. But I do like the idea of having Mayer and Campbell together for an extended period of time in AAA, working together, getting used to playing together, because that is your double play duo of the future.
Yeah, agree. I like that. I haven't really even crossed my mind as that being a thought, just because Trevor Story's here for another 4 years, and you have Marcelo Mayer in the minors for another 4 years. He's 26 at that point.
Yep.
So I mean, it's going to be hard to just watch him sitting in the minor leagues for 4 more years if that's what their plan is.
Yeah. But in my mind, as I think further down the line, I think Bregman's only here for a year, maybe 2. I could see a scenario where Trevor Story moves to third, Devers goes to DH, and now Marcelo Mayer and Christian Campbell come up together and take over the middle infield.
I like that.
I don't think Trevor Story finishes his time with the Red Sox at shortstop.
That's fair, especially with the injuries he's had. He needs to take some stress off that body, and shortstop's not going to take the stress off for sure.
No, I can see him sliding over to third. I could even see him sliding over to first if something were to happen with Casas. He could DH. He's not a long-term shortstop.
I agree. All right. Speaking of Triston Casas, teams have been calling on him and checking on his status. So this could completely shake up the Red Sox positioning that we just spent a half hour talking about. If a deal happens, could we see, again, I said it in this slide, can we see just Yoshida going to the bench? Period.
I mean, could the Red Sox bench him and make him more of a utility guy, or a, kind of a play a couple days a week guy? Sure. I think the Red Sox have that ability. If somebody, the Red Sox are not in the spot where they're going to play a guy just because they owe him a bunch of money. Like if he gets clearly outplayed by 3 or 4 other guys, then yeah, he may be the odd man out. I do think they will try to trade him, knowing full well that he's not in the plan.
Yeah.
But if they can't, I could see a situation where he's platooning with somebody or spending the majority of the time on the bench, because the Red Sox can afford that. Plus, he's going to get replaced by a guy who's like practically free in Roman Anthony. So you can eat the salary because you're paying the guy that's filling his spot nothing. So I think there is some payroll flexibility there to do what needs to be done.
Yeah. And I think if they end up dealing Casas at some point. Maybe you just turn Devers into that first baseman and it takes the pressure off his shoulder. So then you have Yoshida still sitting there at DH, or you have Roman Anthony DHing or something of that nature. But I mean, I don't know. Are you sold on Tristan Casas as a major league player? Like, do you think that he's gonna take another step forward this year?
I mean, yes. I mean, I'm a big believer that Tristan Casas has what the Red Sox need: left-handed power bat. Again, not a high average guy, but he is some middle of the order thump. You didn't get to see much of that last year because he missed so much of the season, and even when he was playing, he was kind of in a bit of a slump to start the season. But you go back to 2023, played 132 games, hit 24 home runs, drove in 65, hit 263. If you can get 260, 25 to 30 and 65 to 85 out of the guy, yeah, he's a perennial all-star potentially. And he's absolutely your first baseman of the future.
Yeah. I don't know if he's a perennial all-star. First base is a pretty hard position to make, but I know your point. I know
he would be at that caliber.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to overtake Vladdy Jr.
Yeah.
But when somebody can't make it, he'll be the first alternate.
Yeah.
But I think you would take that as your long-term solution at first base.
Yeah.
Could you do better? Maybe. But he's only 25 years old. He's under team control for what, 2-3 more years?
I would say at least.
It doesn't get much better than that for the Red Sox. And this is now going into his 4th season. Granted, he's only played 222 games in 3 years, but like he's starting to hit that point where he's had enough experience. You're going to start to see who he really is.
Yeah.
And I think he's your first baseman of the future. Now, if they do trade him, I do believe that one of the requirements of trading Costas is that you have to take Yoshida, kind of like with the Mookie Betts deal. You want Mookie Betts? Well, you got to take David Price. You got to take this garbage contract off our hands.
Yeah.
So I could see that being a package, but they're going to want something back in return that is probably major league ready. So maybe there's another first baseman. Maybe you fill a different hole. You slide people around. Like, you're going to replace Casas in a trade, or it's a pitcher, which is a whole nother story.
Nolan Arenado.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hate trading Casas and Yoshida away for Arenado. I'd be fine with that. He's your third baseman. Bregman goes to second. Devers goes to first, or Bregman goes to third, and then you put Arenado at first and Devers DHs because Yoshida's gone, and now second base is open for one of the young kids.
Right.
I'd be fine with that. I just don't think you're going to see a Bregman come to town. But the Red Sox are now rumored to be talking with the Padres about Dylan Cease. My assumption is Casas is part of that conversation.
Has to be.
And there's no way he's not.
So, right.
It's probably Casas and one of the 3 kids would be in that package.
Now, so that, or what if the Padres want Rafaela? Do you send him with Roman Anthony in the wings or Campbell, who could also play out there?
Yeah, I would not be upset about trading Rafaela. I think Rafaela's he's fun. He's exciting. He's got a lot of upside. He's also raw, very raw, and he's streaky as hell. So I mean, I'd be okay if Rafaela went in the deal. I would not want to see you give up Casas and Rafaela for 1 year of Dylan Cease. You would need to know that you can re-sign Dylan Cease.
Yeah.
If you can't, and if you can't work that out, I would not pull the trigger on that trade. Because you can just go pay Dylan Cease next offseason and save your prospects.
Right. Which I think that's their plan with Garrett Crochet here too, and Crochet said he's open to an extension. So
yes,
hopefully the Red Sox will get that done and not treat it like they have Bogarts and Betts and kind of lowball them with an offer and say they're trying to work it out when they really aren't. So we'll see what happens. But
yeah, because I mean, you've got Garrett Crochet this year for $3.8 million. Next year is his last year of arbitration eligibility. He's not a full free agent until after the 2027 or until the 2027 season. So you've got 2 years of control with Garrett Crochet at below market values,
right?
To figure that out. You've got time. Dylan Cease, he's got 1 more year at $13 million. he's a full-on free agent next year, all bets are off.
Yeah, and if I'm Dylan Cease, after seeing what some of these guys have been paid in the offseason, I don't know if I'm signing an extension. Or maybe if the years are right, I am. I don't know. Because, I mean, seems like the deals other than Soto and Ohtani haven't really been long-term deals. Like, teams are starting to shy away from those 10 to 15-year contracts, unless you are 24, 25, unless you're
Right.
Bobby Witt Jr., Vlad Guerrero, Juan Soto. But, I mean, look at the Alex Bregman mess. Goodness. What was it? Like 5 or 6 years was the most the team was going to go.
Yeah, at 30.
Right. And Bregman's not going to sign that because him trying to find a job at 36 years old is going to be next to impossible.
Yeah, and we said it, like a 6 or 7 year deal for Bregman was likely going to be the last contract he signed.
Yeah.
Unless he still had like some serious talent and could grab a 1 year deal. You know, a la Nelson Cruz, can I grab a sequence of 1 year deals at all these other places to go play? You know, Dylan Cease is 29 this season. He's going to be 30 going into next season. You know, he's thrown, what is it? You know, 850 innings in his career. He'll be, you know, over 1,000 when the season is over this year. I mean, he's not going to be looking at a 7, 8, 9 year deal. He's going to be a guy who's going to be in that same 3 to 5 year window. And he's going to get paid. You know, it's going to be probably a 5 year, $150+ million deal.
Yeah, agree. So we will see what happens here. And who knows, it might not happen now. It could happen at the trade deadline as the season starts to sort itself out there down the line. But I don't know.
Yeah, and the Red Sox have the same decision to make with Walker Buehler too. Like if he finishes the first half and he is absolutely shoving, then you have to begin the conversation of, okay, like what is it going to take to keep you?
Yeah.
Because the Red Sox have no mechanism in that contract to keep him beyond this year. Probably at Walker Buehler's request. But doesn't mean you can't start negotiations during the season to see if you can hang on to him.
Yeah. Yeah. You're calling him in. You're like, hey, dude, like, is there any chance we can convince you not to go to free agency? But gonna be hard, like you said, if he is shoving, he's gonna be like, thanks, but no thanks. Like, I'm gonna go get paid.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you've really got to pay the guy.
Yeah.
But I will say, you know, Bregman had comments today to reporters, just, you know, a big part of why he signed here is he thinks this is a team that's ready to win.
Yeah.
It's a team that's taken a step back for a few years, a team that's reloaded. He said it's a winning environment. He's a huge fan of Alex Cora, obviously, because their time together. Yeah, and it's the Red Sox used to attract players because it was a winning culture. And then they kind of lost that for a few years. If they can bring that back, then all of a sudden guys like Buehler are like, well, yeah, I would like to stay. Like, let's talk about that. Versus, no, I just came here to bolster my career and get paid. Like, I'm going to get the hell out of here as fast as I can. Yeah. That's the way it's been. We want to turn that back to players wanting to come here.
Yeah, it seems like the tide has turned a little bit in that direction just by being more active in the off season. Like, more fans are tuned in. Like, we're excited about the season instead of just being like, another offseason. Red Sox didn't do a goddamn thing. Like, we're just sitting here. You know, fans are actually excited, which makes the players excited, which makes the Red Sox exciting. So I really hope that they can turn the page and we're here for, you know, a long stretch of time, successful time, like we have been since 2004. I mean, really 2000s till now. Like, the Red Sox have been relevant after 86 years of not being relevant, you know? So I hope they're here to stay and we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah. I mean, you look at what the Dodgers have done, you look at what the Yankees have done historically, you look at what the Mets are trying to do right now. Like, when you build that winning culture and you have a team that's full of talent, like, people want to go there.
Right.
Nobody wants to go to the White Sox and get their heads kicked in for 162 games.
No.
But they want to go and chase wins and titles and rings. And that's why everybody's lined up to go to the Dodgers right now. That is the prettiest girl at the dance right now. Everybody's lined up. But you know, when that tide changes in a few years, it'll be somebody else. It'll be back to the Yankees or the Mets, or, you know, the Red Sox need to reestablish themselves as a destination for free agents, not just another team out there offering contracts.
Yes. Agree. All right. So reports already kind of coming out of spring training of a couple setbacks. We got reports of Cutter Crawford might miss the start of the season, and we have Brian Bayo facing shoulder soreness. I hope the shoulder soreness is just like fatigue already. Like, hey, maybe I'm just tired from my off-season throwing program. I just need to take a little bit, rest, and then get right back to it. But I'm glad it's a shoulder. Well, I'm not glad, but it's better than anytime you hear elbow, you're like, oh shit. Like,
yeah, elbows bad.
Yeah. So shoulders can rest, hopefully, and he can come back. But Crawford could erase any thoughts of having a 6-man rotation coming out of spring.
Yeah, because Giolito's not going to be back. So you in theory could need all hands to start the season if Cutter Crawford is out and Bayo's delayed. And Cutter Crawford's been dealing with this issue all winter. It's patella tendonitis. He's been on again, off again. He's behind on his throwing program. So they're trying to catch him up in a way that they're not going to set him back further. And then Bayo, shoulder soreness. Hopefully that literally is just the start of the season or start of spring training. Every year there's a bunch of guys that come in with dead arm, soreness, and then, magically it goes away in a week or two once they've gotten back on the program. So the hope is that's all it is. But a young guy with his stuff, shoulder soreness, like the first week of camp, that's not a good start. And that's a kind of hold your breath moment, because that could become something significantly worse.
Yeah. Hopefully not, but all right.
So as much as we were praising the Red Sox for their depth in the rotation, it's already going to get tested.
Yeah, for sure. Gotta love it. Typical Red Sox. But anyways,
love it. Here's all this great stuff, and well, we're not going to have him or him or him.
Yeah,
it's fine.
All right. Yeah. All right. On to some Red Sox trivia before we end the show here. Here we go, Harrison. Who was the last Boston Red Sox player to hit a home run in their final Major League Baseball at bat?
Well, we talked about him on the show a while back. The last one I can think of is Daniel Nava with the grand slam.
It is Daniel Nava with the grand slam. Yes.
Unfortunately, turned out to be a highly overrated player.
Yeah. So June 12th, 2010, against the Phillies, Joe Blanton, that's the last pitcher to homer in a World Series, by the way.
Say.
In the second inning, and it's significant because his first Major League at bat was a grand slam. Crazy.
And that was really the sole peak of his career.
Yep. All right. Next one. Who was the most recent Boston Red Sox player to homer in their final at bat of their career?
Oh, final at bat. Say Ortiz did he?
No. This is a name that once you hear it, you'll be like, oh my goodness. I'll give you the date. October 28th, 2007. So it was World Series Game 4.
Oh. So not like a Lowell.
It's not I would say not a Red Sox star. It's not a name you would typically think of
just
when
like
you think of those teams.
Eduardo Nunez, Dave McCarty.
Nope.
Is that too late for him?
I think it's too late. Yeah. Yeah, this one's hard. You ready for this name?
Yeah. Oh, Bobby Kilty, really?
Bobby Kilty homered in his last at bat during Game 4 of the 2007 World Series.
Completely forgot he was even on the Red Sox.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh man, one of those guys who had such a short stint, because he was in Boston for what? Yeah, just 2007. He played 20 games.
Yeah, and that was his final Major League at bat. Was a home
amazing,
run.
because he's only 30 when he left the game.
Yeah, crazy.
Wow. Okay, that's a blast from the past.
Pretty cool one. All right. 2 Red Sox players were taken by the Colorado Rockies in the expansion draft. Who were they?
I remember one of them was Jody Reed. I have no idea who the second one was.
So the second one was a long time Cleveland Indians manager.
Oh, manager. Okay, so I'm trying to think the sequence of managers there. You had Hargrove. You had
I don't know if he was long time, but like when I think of this name, I think of him in
Eric Wedge.
It is Eric Wedge. Nice
I
job.
forgot he was on the Red Sox.
Yeah. So both were selected by the Rockies in the expansion draft.
I remember Jody Reed getting taken because I liked Jody Reed. Like I was
Yeah.
kind of surprised that he did get snapped up, but he didn't end up ever playing there either.
No. So as I kind of went down a rabbit hole and like looked at like all the expansion drafts and who they selected and all that stuff. But a lot of those guys were selected and this turned around and traded.
Yep.
To build what they had going forward. But yeah, Jody Reed.
Yeah, he played the 97 season in Detroit. So he was basically taken and flipped. But he was a Florida State guy.
Yeah. Cool. Yep. Pretty crazy. Nice. All right. I'm bringing it back, but for the rounding third Boston,
Nice.
We have Red Sox before and after. So if you're watching, what happens is there's two players, and their last name is also the first name of the second player. So you'll kind of see how it works. So here's the first one's clues. 1995 AL MVP plus second baseman acquired from the Braves in the Chris Sale trade.
So this would be Mo Vaughn Grissom.
Yes, Mo Vaughn and Vaughn Grissom. So it's Mo Vaughn Grissom. Here we go. I loved Mo Vaughn. Oh, yeah. The hit dog. Yeah. My parents, like I said, I went to Mo Vaughn hitting camp. They brought me there, man. That was one of the best times of my life. It was so sick.
Yep. I would have loved to have gone.
Oh, it was awesome. All right. Next one. Former third baseman turning possible second baseman that the Red Sox just signed to a 3-year contract. Plus, left fielder known for cutting off Johnny Damon and giving high fives to fans and then promptly turning in double play right after.
So as a kind of a tip of the cap to our bench warmer friends, this will be Alex Bregman Ramirez.
Yes, sir. Alex Bregman Ramirez. Yes. Yeah, if you guys have not checked out Benchwarmers Trivia Podcast, you have to, because they do a whole bunch of these, and they kind of taught us a new way to do these before and afters, and this is pretty cool.
They take more liberties with the connection of the names than we did in the past, but it works out great.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. All right, next one. Red Sox first baseman in 2004 that coined the phrase "cowboy up," plus once highly touted prospect that played his entire career, a total of 30 games in 3 years for the Red Sox, only collecting 8 hits in that time.
Oh, wow. So Kevin Millar is the first baseman.
Yep.
Once highly touted prospect played his entire career.
I think the 3 years he played was 10, 11, and 12, and it wasn't for many games in all those seasons. But he was supposed to be like the next big thing.
Oh, man. So Millar. So how do I connect off of that?
Stumped him.
That's a good one. Yeah. So off of Millar, I don't have anybody off of Millar. Like I'm thinking of like Ryan Lavarnaway. I'm thinking of guys like.
No.
I got nothing. I got Kevin Millar and nobody else.
It is Lars Anderson.
Oh my goodness, that is a name I completely forgot about.
Yeah, because he was supposed to be like one of the next big things coming up, and he just absolutely busted.
He was terrible. He was terrible.
He's not the one that had the medical condition, is it? Wasn't there a guy coming up that had what was that medical condition?
I do not remember.
Am I making that up?
No, I do remember. I do remember there being somebody. I cannot think of who it was, but I don't think it was Lars Anderson.
Yeah, I'm.
Yeah, we'll figure out who it was. But yeah, I mean, I remember seeing him in the minors. He was so good. He was one of those guys who just crushed it in the minors.
It was Ryan Westmoreland.
Oh, that's right, Ryan Westmoreland. You're right.
Yeah. So
that was a sad one because he was another guy that was going to be great.
Yes. But yeah, I think Lars Anderson and Ryan Westmoreland was around the same kind of timeline. So that's how I remember Lars Anderson. But.
Yeah, because the Red Sox had that rash. You had Rizzo with cancer. You had a number of prospects in that window get impacted by stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. Ryan Westmoreland, that was a sad one.
And then the Bryce Flory line drive off the eye socket. That one was bad too.
That was brutal.
Yeah.
I'll never see anything like that again in my life. I hope, because that was horrendous.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen some pretty bad ones like comebackers, but that has to be easily the worst one I've ever seen.
Yep.
And that was what, 2001?
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah. Man. Crazy.
But yeah, Lars Anderson. Wow. That's a blast from the past.
Yep. You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right.
You brought some real old school.
I did.
Ones at me tonight.
I did for sure. But that's all I have for Red Sox stuff tonight. Do you have anything to add for rounding third Boston tonight?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I brought up the Dylan Cease thing. The Red Sox are talking to the Padres, getting a sense of. Sounds like it's more due diligence than making an offer, but understanding what the asking price is, what the situation is.
Yeah.
Bregman had some great things to say about the Red Sox and why he came here. And there's a lot of people that believe that he will have a big impact. There's also significant deferrals in his contract that I think we started to get into last week. He's got a $5 million signing bonus. There's $35 million in the first year. $20 million of that is deferred without interest. $20 million is deferred in the second year. Looks like the same in the third year. So there's some significant deferrals. That's how they got him the AAV he wanted, was by being able to spread it out.
Yeah. Well, and they might not even be on the hook for the last 2 years of those 20 million deferrals if he opts out. So, that's if he comes back for year 2 or year 3. So,
yeah. And that's actually one of the things that, as we were talking about this, Nick, I want to get your take on it. Do you believe that we see Bregman for more than a year in Boston? Is this a quick stop and a trip back to the free agency, or is he going to hang around?
I think it solely depends on the success of the Red Sox this year. If the Red Sox go and somehow get past the Yankees, get past whoever to get to the World Series, and they're competing, I think he probably re-ups and stays one more year. If people get hurt and, the Red Sox circle the drain and he puts up north of 25 and 85, I think he hits the free agent market.
Yeah, that's the feeling I get. I think it's like I said last week. He signed 3 one-year contracts basically with the Red Sox, but each year he gets to choose if he wants it or not.
Right.
And I think he's just going to wait for the right time to go back into free agency, and that's going to be completely at his discretion based on the marketplace, the year he has, the state of the Red Sox. But I don't think we see him for 3 years.
I don't either, but he's also not going to see $40 million on the open market. There's no way. He's
not going to see $40 million in that contract either. He's going to have to wait. He's going to wait for half of it.
Well, right, but that's what I mean. But he's not going to get a contract like this if he signs somewhere else in the next 3 years. So
no, he's going to be looking at a $30 million a year
AAV. Yeah. I mean, unless he just goes absolutely off and he hits 35 homers with 120 knocked in, which I don't see him doing.
Man, I hope he does.
Yes,
that'd be great for the Red Sox.
Same.
But I could see this being like an Adrian Beltre deal where it's like, I'm going to come in for a year, I'm going to rake, and then I'm going to take off and get paid.
Yeah, I said that last week. I have a feeling that's most likely the scenario. But I also wouldn't mind seeing him for 3 years here.
No,
at
if he's going to hit and play well and fit in great, then yeah, I'd love to see him for 3 years. I just don't think we will. And just like Adrian Beltre had no intentions of staying in Boston long term. That was a
No.
quick stop to rejuvenate his career and go get paid.
Yeah. But hey, if he likes the atmosphere here, he likes the players, he likes what the Red Sox are doing, he could. Definitely not out of the question.
If Bregman is the gamer we think he is, I think he's going to love being in Boston.
Yes.
The intensity of the fans, the way that ballpark is every night, the history. I think that if he's the kind of guy we think he is, that he's going to love it here.
Yeah. I agree.
Guess time will tell. Money talks.
And that's the biggest thing is the money does do all the talking, but
sure does.
All right. Well, that will do it for Rounding Third Boston tonight. We will be back on next Sunday at 8 p.m. Talk some more Red Sox news, some more Red Sox trivia. Thanks for stopping by in the comments. We love the interaction with you guys, so keep coming back week after week. And we will see you next Sunday at 8 p.m.